G'day folks, and welcome to this playthrough of Typhoon, the drive on Moscow. It's designed by Vance von Borries. I did an introduction overview about a week ago, and I've just been sort of busy with other things, but also reading and rereading through the rules and checking things and running through things, making sure I have a handle on this system. Just a reminder, I mentioned in that overview that I'm using the second edition of the rules. This is Barbarossa Army Group Center standard rules from the GMT website, the P500 page for Army Group Center. These are 2021 release, so they're the most up-to-date version of the rules. And as I was working through here, it seems to be a nice hex encounter game, and you get to about page 30 and you encounter all these, you can see where the highlighting begins to increase, all these tricky rules around artillery and super heavy artillery and special units and air combat and all this kind of stuff, which takes this game to another level. It is a heavy game. It is a complex game. There's a lot to wrap, well, there's a lot for me to wrap my head around. I've got my supply units out here. They become supply dumps. The markers are the victory points. So the Germans in this scenario are trying to capture Moscow. This is scenario 1, last gamble for Moscow. And it takes place, as I mentioned in that overview, sorry, a bit of repetition here, but it runs from the 15th of November through until, I think, early December, scenario length 1035, until, the 7th, 8th of December. And the Germans are trying to capture Moscow. Their victory conditions are basically to capture Moscow. They win automatically if they have one combat unit occupying any Moscow hex. Otherwise, when the scenario ends, they also win if they've scored 8 victory points. And these red markers indicate all those victory point areas. Now, they already control 1, 2, 3 at the start, so 4, 5, 6, 7, one of these would give them 8. They can drive way up to the north. You can't quite see that, it's just off camera, but way up in the north. If I can slide the map down, there you go. There's another victory point location way up there. A lot of open ground, it's a bit of a diversion to get up there, but that's another possibility. So one of these would be enough, or 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all that would be enough. How are the Germans going to do this? Well, I've already been thinking about this, and I'm thinking we might try a drive along the highway, sort of south along here. This is, incidentally, the highway is the last eligible hex. They can't come south of the highway. That's the sort of edge of the map for this scenario, but they can drive along it and straight into Moscow. So they could potentially capture Kubinka here and Kutsevo here. They give them 2 victory points south of the Moskva River. They also, the other plan is to sort of, the green dots indicate eligible Russian fortified lines. You'll notice all these fortified lines here. These are all in play, but anything sort of outside that is not, with the exception of these 5 areas. They still have these little fortified lines there. They haven't been destroyed yet. They are in play. So the second part of this plan is to try to drive not necessarily directly east, but sort of northeast through here. And what I'd like to do, the German plan here, Operation Typhoon, is, or this part of Operation Typhoon, is to swing around the northern end here. You can see these victory point areas up here. So if I can sort of drive around, it's going to be sort of a left hook around the Istra Reservoir, basically. I don't want to go through. You can see these Russian strong points along here. I don't want to, and a lot of Russian forces in this area, the fortified line. I would like, as a rookie German player, to basically bypass as much of that as possible, swing around, link up with this northern force, 1st Panzer Division, don't know who else we've got up here, and come around from the north end of Moscow. There's a lot more open terrain up here, open terrain through here. It avoids the strong points, it avoids a lot of this wooded terrain, it avoids a lot of the Russians. You'll notice more spread out, weaker Russian units in this area. I don't know what to do about the Volga Reservoir. There are bridges here across the reservoir, parts of the reservoir. I could swing all the way around. It's a long way to swing all the way around, but I could come all the way up here and then drive straight down here. Maybe, that's a possibility. I just don't know how hard it's going to be to cross over these bridges. So what I'm doing here is bringing together, basically, my understanding of these rules. There are, in this series, there are rules for various special units. So just for example, just looking down here, we have on the top of this stack here, stacking is 10 stacking points, basically. And you'll see on the left of this engineering unit, there are 2. The 2 here indicates 2 stacking points. So if I inspect this stack, we've got engineers, anti-air, and 2 artillery, and they all do very different things. The engineers can negate die roll modifiers for strong points. So my plan here is to bring these engineers down here and help with that attack. I have got anti-air, and they can be used for bunker busting, which can also they double their attack strength when attacking strong points. I've got my artillery, and they'll lend their support for the attack strength. They'll also draw on that attack supply. They begin there. This artillery has a range of 2, so they'll need to move up a little bit. What else have we got? We've got our sort of armoured units up along here. They have special armour movement rates. They can move during that mechanised phase, so they're trying to sort of punch through and break through and get this exploitation movement. What else? Some propelled artillery up in the north there, I think, by the looks of it. Maybe not. That's something else. There may be assault guns. Yeah, so lots to think about. Step losses as well. So a lot of these units start off, so these guys, for example, start off reduced. That's their full strength side. That's their reduced side. But we also have some German units that start off with these step loss markers. And the way this works is that's a full strength unit. Now they've taken 1 step. Once they take a second step, you remove that and flip them over. So they've got 2 steps. That'll be their 3rd step, and then their 4th step would eliminate them. So it's an interesting way of modelling their step losses. Okay, so the Russians have got their headquarters as well, and I'm using the non-operational system from that 2nd edition rules. The reverse of these counters has a Russian flag, so I'm going to just try to use... I do have the other titles in that EFS series. I'm going to, just try to imagine, I guess, what their non-operational values would be. Maybe it won't happen at all. Maybe I won't need to worry about that. Around a lot of these headquarters, this is a small scenario. A lot of the rules are also streamlined for this scenario, so I can just sort of run you through some of the fundamentals here. There are no axis railhead markers, so I don't have to worry about rail repair for this scenario. What else? There is supply. I've mentioned this, and I have my supply units ready to come on. They'll come on in the movement phase, and they'll come in along these roads. And I've kind of spaced them out. I've got 2 in the north, 3 in the centre, where they can split to the north if they need, or come down to the south if things are going well here. And I have 2 in the south, which is probably 1 too many, but we'll see how we go. What else? Reinforcement pools. There are no replacements in this scenario at all. Air readiness. Normally you'd make an air readiness check. This is a chart just at the very top of the board here. I can bring this down. I have already conducted the air phase. So these start off in the flown box. One of the very first steps of the turn is to move these up to the ready box. So I now have 2 Ju-88s. Now in the 2nd edition rules, units have, with Typhoon originally they just had 2 values. With subsequent titles, they had their, what are these values referred to again? The first is their air combat rating, so they have a 3 air combat rating. The second value is their ground attack interdiction. Subsequent titles presented 2 numbers on the right, their CAS, close air support, and their interdiction rating. They are generally identical. So the JU88s in subsequent titles have a 3-1-1. So it's pretty easy to convert these counters to Typhoon. You just say, well, if it's a 3-1 JU88s, they're actually 3-1-1. 3 air combat, 1 CAS value, 1 interdiction value. CAS, close air support, is used for supporting ground combat. Interdiction does various things. It disrupts headquarters, it disrupts supply, it disrupts road movement, all these kind of things. And I probably won't worry too much about interdiction. I'll probably be mostly doing some close air support missions. The Russians don't have... Oh, they do have air. My apologies. They do have these two guys here, who are a little bit weaker. So air readiness, these units go straight to the ready box. Yeah. And they come out, though, later. Game turn 30, game turn 32. That's about it. And I think I'm ready to go. So I will... As I said, I've already conducted the first basic steps of this sequence of play, but I've kind of explained what I've done. Weather phase, the weather is fixed in this scenario for the first 2 or 3 turns. The first 2 turns are automatically frost weather. Great. Replacements phase, no replacements in this scenario. Reinforcements, nothing on game turn 24. Yep. First Russian reinforcements will come in game turn 25. First Germans will come in game turn 26. We have the air phase, and as I said, I've already moved those units up. Naval readiness phase, we're not using this scenario. Supply status phase, something to keep in mind for future. This is where we check supply, update supply status, no worries. We now get to the Axis player segment, and the first step in this Axis player segment is the movement phase. This is the fun part, where we get to move our units around. So let's figure out how we're going to get this job done. Okay. I want an attack here, I think. And I've been umming and ahhing about this. Okay, so this is the main highway. Yes, I'd like to clear that main highway, but maybe I just go around this main highway and hit this unit here. Why would I do that? They're not in a strong point for a start. They are in a town though. So the Russian defense here is 6 plus a strong point. No, I may as well use those engineers to bust through that bunker. We've got a stacking here of 6. And I can bring 10 into a hex. So I can bring 3 of these 11th Panzer units into that area. And they can just march down the highway into that area, no worries. I'd like the other 11th Panzer unit to be adjacent, and I think attacking that hex as well. I kind of think I want to throw everything into this one combat, question mark. Is that a good idea or not? They'll have a defense of 6. You basically get a Soviet reaction phase where they can bring in an extra unit. And what I'm worried about is they could bring in something that could kind of mess with the German plans, whereas I kind of spread out my attacks. This is where I'm kind of thinking, well, what's the best strategy here for the Germans? A couple of little attacks, concentrating on key areas, bringing everything together. Or, yeah, spread out attacks. If I do the one-off attack here, I'll have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 on 6. But they're likely to reinforce that to 8. I'd be looking at sort of a 1-to-1 odds, a 3-to-2. Okay, and this is a CRT, so you can get a sense of how effective that might be. 3-to-2, rolling a D10. There are a lot of R retreat results on there for the defender, but the attacker has got about a 50% chance of suffering some attacker losses as well. So maybe it's better to bring in sort of some focused effort. So I can go 1, 2, 3 because they're mechanized, 4, I think. So this is the Barbaros of Crimea terrain chart, much the same. It's just slightly illustrated. It's color as well in Crimea. I just basically photocopied this from my copy of Crimea. This contrasts with the terrain effects chart. It should be much the same, I think, every comparison I made. Yeah. Actually, Woods is +2. It's not just 2, it's +2. So 1... One, 2, 3, 4, because they're motorized, and then 5, 6, 7 to get into there, which they could make easily. Okay, now let's bring the engineers down, because as I said, these guys can... We now have a stacking of 6, 7, 8. I think I'll bring the engineers down. 1, 9, 10. Now, one thing that I kind of had a question mark around was as units lose these steps, I wasn't sure if they actually lose stacking value as well. So yeah, I can't see that in the rules. I was just rereading the section earlier on unit steps, and the section in the original rules as written doesn't say anything about this reducing stacking. It reduces their attack and defense strength by 2. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily reduce their stacking limit. And those units here have a stacking limit of 6, so it really clogs up that hex until they lose another step. So we're pretty much maximum stacking here with an attack here. What did I say? 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 23. That's unfortunate, we're so close. If I bring these guys instead, that gives me 25, 4 to 1. But as I said, I think the Russians are going to bring reinforcements anyway. So I'll use the engineers to kind of... What it does is they provide a dice roll modifier, which in effect cancels out the modifier for the strong point, which provides a beneficial modifier for the Russians. All right, so that's our bottom attack sorted out. How am I going to handle this thing in the center? So we got 6, 10, 17. Oh, I also need to bring in some artillery, just a little step down, just so they can be in range. I've got a range of 2, have to be in range of the defender hex. Up here, so what I was kind of thinking is these are some weak Russian cavalry. If I can just bring my engineers, my artillery up the road to there, and it'd be lovely to get these guys all the way up to here somewhere to help out with this attack. I just don't know if they can reach there. 1, 2, 3, 2.5 maybe. They are on a main road. It's a half actually. Yep. So 1, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, 5.5, 6. They can reach it. So maybe I can get... I did say I wanted to bypass these fortifications, but if I can smash straight into them and get double defense. I've focused sort of my preparations on the southern half of the the map here. I haven't really looked at what's going on elsewhere. I should also point out, as I said, that the limitation of this scenario, southern limit is this highway, eastern limit is the edge here where I put these markers. This is just part of one of the maps that comes with Typhoon. There's no northern edge, so you can really spread out across the north there. So let's bring these guys, because they are bunker busters. Well, I can bunker bust. 1, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, 5.5, 6 into there. And we'll try to get an attack on these guys. I don't know what will happen, but we'll give it a go. We've got our artillery there in the area. At least, yeah, we have 2 artillery at the moment. So maybe I bring down some of these 7th Panzer Division, perhaps. Do I come down here and try and hit through? I don't want to attack through the marshes. So maybe I put the AA guns there. Reinforce. I mean, I kind of do need to do something in the centre here. You suffer adverse combat results when attacking out of a marsh. There are swamps and marshes. Swamps and marshes. Here's the distinction between the two. I think that's a swamp, that's a marsh. So that's a marsh. And actually, no, there are no... Swamps are really bad. Marshes are just more difficult to move through. 2 movement points. Okay, so I can move into this swamp here. Rather, marsh here. Swamp's bad for combat. Marsh is bad for movement. I'll keep that in mind. So, I think, I want to get 7th Panzer. 1, 2, 1.5. 2, 3, 4.5. 5. Something else to keep in mind. Okay. Before I do any more movement, I'm just remembering a rule. And the rule is additional movement points for moving into enemy zones of control. This is the other problem with this big rulebook. By the time you've reached the end of the rulebook, I'm kind of forgetting all the things I read at the beginning. Unit entering an enemy zone in the control pays 1 additional movement point. Okay, so I don't think... Hopefully I haven't broken any of these rules earlier. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So they couldn't all get there. They can go 1, 2, 3 to there. Okay, so now I've got stacking of 8 there. This unit can make it though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for the zone control. Got it. Alright, so we're setting up for the 7th Panzer Army to attack this fortified line. We have our artillery ready. We have 2 different types of artillery. Okay, we might bring our supply trucks on. They'll come charging down the highway. I have forgotten the range of these. So basically you need to have attack supply available, and yeah, I've forgotten the rules around this. Have attack supply available for both your units and your artillery. I'll bring these guys down as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Put them in there. They can probably get a bit closer. These trucks will come on. So this is where I need to kind of make sure that I'm not letting the Russians push through. We do have some. These are kind of mechanized units, so they are able to move in that that special motorized movement phase. So keeping them available would be in a good position would be good. But I just don't know where a good position is for these guys right now. Maybe they set up for another attack. Maybe I look up what's happening in the north here. Okay, so we've got six Panzer Division here. 5, 6, 7, 8. Maybe I'll try and get an attack on the cavalry and try and punch straight through here. So let's get these guys 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the zone of control. These guys will go 1, 2, 3, 4 for the zone of control. Now I don't think, I mean, yeah, big gap here. I've got this unit here. They can go 1. Double checking road movement rates. 2. Yep, everyone is a half. 2, 3, 4. They can't move further because that would be 5 plus the zone of control 6. So they're blocking that sort of central area at least, just in case the Russians get a bit eager. And I'll bring on my other trucks. I guess I'll park them there. All right. Now the situation in the north, and I haven't really thought too much about this. Yeah, it'd be nice to attack across into Kalinin. How do I go about this? There's a river in the way. It's not a major river. These are major rivers here. This is still, though, a river which gives the Russians a +1 dice roll modifier and no close combat CAB bonus. Combined arms bonus. Combined arms, I think. So I'm kind of thinking, do I try and... Yeah, tough defense. Do I try and push southeast and then around? Do I try and get across the river first? Or do I just punch through and hope for a good combat result? If I focus everything on... Oh, sorry, I've already captured Kalinin. I'm in the hex, but I'm trying to get across that river there. That's where the bridge is. But these Russians here, they're exerting zones of control on my left and right, so maybe I should try and clear these guys out and maybe get an attack on these guys as well. I'm sure I can do both. Need to think about how to get this done. Yeah, so they are assault guns. And this strong point here is also kind of in my way. So, okay, maybe instead of not worrying about these 3 units, I just sort of drive north instead. Because to clear out here, I have to make 3 separate attacks. I mean, they're in decent defensive positions. What have the Russians got up here? I've got a defense here of 8. It's a tough defense. But they don't have much. If I can just push through a little bit. Yeah, I'm leaning towards getting as much as I can. I'm going to move that off because I know where it is. Some attacks on these two hexes, I think, and maybe even this one as well. So I've got nine sitting there. I'm really torn about this situation. I really think I have to remove this threat from my right flank first. I do want to push up north. I do want to clear the Russians out. It doesn't feel like it would take much to push them away from that river, but I need to give myself some breathing space out here on the right. So I'm going to come out here to the right and attack here as well. These only have a defense of 2. Strong point will help them a little bit. Bunker Buster will pretty much negate that. So we bring these guys down and around. I think I can only use 1 eligible unit for that bunker busting bonus. I'm pretty sure assault guns provide that. I'll probably really overemphasize, really oversold this bunker busting benefit. It just doubles their attack strength of that unit, basically, not everyone. But I seem to recall only 1 eligible unit can be declared. And yes, that includes assault guns. But can I get these assault guns elsewhere? This is a minor road, which for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, they can't get anywhere else. They could get an attack on there, but it's only got a defense of 1. We'll bring them in anyway because a strength of 2. We've also got AA. They also help with. They also are eligible bunker busters. We will bring in some infantry. So what's our stacking here? We've got 6, 7, 8. And we have an attack strength of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 on 2. That's pretty good. Alright, let's try to maybe get an attack here on the Russian armour. And maybe we bring the 1st Panzer across. Can they squeeze in there to lead that attack? That's a stacking of 6. Bring some AA, 6, and we'll bring some infantry as well, 6, 7, 8, 9. And now we'll get our infantry, we'll pull these guys out of here and into there, and we'll get the infantry division here to take their place. Okay, so what do we got here? Can I use these guys for anything? 6, 7, 8, 9. No, I can't. I could try and attack straight across there instead of pushing them into there, because I've got a good defense here. They can defend Kalinin, and I'll push in there. Get my trucks on the board. And look, I think that's the end of the German movement phase. A rough and ready start to Typhoon. Now, the next step, I think I've done everything for movement. I've brought my trucks on, no reinforcements. The next step is my attack declaration phase. Now, this is, where it gets interesting. I need to, at this stage, declare attacks. I need to make sure I've got sufficient attack strength to make these attacks. Basically, combat units, blah blah blah. I take these declared attack markers, and I need to remember where I was going to attack. So I'm going to declare an attack there. I'm going to declare an attack there, and I'm going to declare an attack there, and we'll see. And yeah, oh, they're in the woods across a river. Woods doesn't do anything for combat. The river, it's not a major river, it's just a river. It gives them a little bit of a combat. Oh, their defensive 4 there is pretty tough. And I'll only have an attack of 12. Let's give it a go. 3 to 1, that's pretty good. We'll attack there as well. Down here, we are going to declare an attack here. Down here, I said I was going to attack this fortified line. I didn't even move these guys. I think they're just going to charge straight into these Russian defenders. Defensive 4. I haven't even worked out the odds here. What I've got here, the second, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That gives me 3 to 1 in there for modifiers. That sounds like a good thing to do. We might get these guys to attack into... I think we'll attack into there and really smash that cavalry unit. The other thing you can do, okay, so this with this system you can attack combined hexes, so I can declare an attack on these 2 hexes together. But I think yeah, you've got to keep in mind this reaction phase and what can potentially happen here. We'll declare an attack there, and I think we'll do another one just there with these units. And that's all my declared attack markers. Oh no, 2 here, but yeah, these are orders. So yes, they are my attacks declared. Now, after attack declaration, we have the defending non-active player making reaction movement. Now, the defender can move any one eligible unit for each defender hex being targeted, basically, at up to half its movement allowance. Now, eligible units are units with a red box movement allowance. So these Russians here could move 2.5, 1, 2. They could make that hex. Units within 3 hexes of the defender hex. They can't. Does not begin movement in an enemy zone of control. So you can't move this. This unit can't go out and then back in again to there because they're already in an enemy zone of control. And this is where zones of interdiction as well. If there's a zone of interdiction, they can't move out either. Soviets. For Soviets to be eligible as well, there are additional restrictions. They must be within command range of an HQ of a... can't be within the command range of a non-operational HQ. So the second edition rules, or post-Typhoon rules, non-operational HQs kind of penalise units within their range, and they can't be an NKVD unit. So let's do some reaction. And I want to bring my armor, Russian armor, up here. So they're going to react and go 1, 2, straight into this strong point hex. Can anyone get into here? These guys have 2.5. No, they can't. 1, 2.5. They can't react. They're all in zones of control. we do have some Soviet armour under here. And they could boost that cavalry's chances in combat. So they'll go 1... Oh, actually, something to consider is they're moving into an enemy zone of control. Do they pay that? It doesn't pay the MP costs. It's highlighted. They don't pay the MP cost to move into an enemy zone of control when doing so. Okay, so reaction movement doesn't cost that extra movement point. So 1, there is a hill here. Cavalry unit on a hill costs 2, so they can't. I'll be half along that road, and then 2.5. They can just make it. They could also not make here because that's woods and there's no connecting road. Now, I mentioned in the overview video, I think I'm not playing I'm playing by the optional movement rules, where you just pay to enter the hex. I just have a huge preference for that. I cannot move into here. It costs me too much. It costs basically 3 to move in there, and they've only got half movement. They're all tied up. They only have half movement. They can't make it either. So that's pretty much the limit of Russian reaction movement. They've got a few little units helping out down the south. A couple of small brigades helping out. Now, order markers. Both players now have the option to place order markers regarding retreats. There are 2 types of orders markers. They are up in this little container here. You have no retreat markers or additional retreat markers. And they're pretty much self-explanatory. No retreat stops the retreat, causes an additional step loss instead. Additional retreat, I think this cancels a step loss, but causes an additional step of retreat, I think. Or maybe it's just an additional hex of retreat. So, and I'm sure there's another layer of thinking around these and where to place them and when to place them. Where do you want to stop the enemy retreating? I want to kind of kick and I don't know, do I want, first time playing this, I don't know if I want to cause step losses on the Russians. I'm looking at their big reinforcement schedule. There's going to be a lot more Russians coming. I think for now, look, it's not necessarily forcing a retreat result. The additional retreat is just forcing them to retreat an additional hex. So it's kicking them further out. I don't think that's really necessary in many cases. Up in the north here, I want them to retreat. I want them out of the way. So I'm not going to play any orders for the Germans. But I should say, okay, so the defender places their orders first. And the Russians might want to say, well, I want these guys to hold their ground. And in some cases, such as with NKVD units, there are automatic no retreat markers placed. And you can subsequently cancel those no retreat units if they're within range of a friendly HQ. So, they need to place these, I should also clarify, to place these orders, the defenders must be in eligible terrain, which includes things like woods, mountains, and cities. Even these guys. Oh, they are in range, so I can say, hey, you're in range of that headquarters. They're issuing no retreat markers down here. Yes. Okay, so now I think as part of that Russian reaction, there should have also been Russian artillery support declaration. And yeah, this is basically where you look for. Here we go. A range of 2, it's in range. Got some rocket artillery there as well. Range of 1 though. Some artillery behind the lines here and here. So they're in range to support. They're out of range. And yeah, we've got some artillery way up in the north here as well. Out of range of anyone to help. Okay. So artillery is required to trace a line of communications to an ASP, which is an artillery supply point, providing attack supply to that combat. Defensive artillery in an enemy zone of control can't offer support. You add the artillery's support strength to friendly units. Turn the artillery over to its fired side. So basically these guys are going to contribute their strength, I think, to this combat down the south. These guys will contribute their strength to the one right next to them. We have two here, and I'll throw them both against this same combat here. I think that should be legal. Attacker support, artillery support strength basically can't exceed your attack strength. It shouldn't. I should have more than enough there. Up to, there's limits to artillery. You can have up to 4 Axis artillery units combining. Yeah. Okay. You can also do super heavy artillery bombardment, but I don't think Typhoon includes... It's in the rules, which I've read about, but there's no super heavy artillery, I don't think, in Typhoon. At least I don't think there are any in this scenario. We now have... I'll just check the sequence of play. Yeah, I guess we've got air units as well, and yeah, the Germans do have. If I can go reach back over here, bring in my air units. These guys are flying. Whoops, where'd they go? Flying around looking for a target. And where do I want success? Look, if I can do a lot of damage here and do a lot of damage here, maybe I can quickly punch through and get across the Volga and get into Novosvidovsky. So maybe I prioritize that northern attack there and see what happens. So that's where I'll throw my air units. 2 separate attacks. I don't know if that's a good idea or not. You can bring multiple aircraft into one combat, and this is where you'll bring, when you've got a lot of air units, you can bring your fighters along to escort. They can be intercepted if your opponent has fighters to intercept. The Russians don't at the moment. So yeah, I think I'll do that. 2 separate air missions, providing, I think, close air support for my ground combat. I kind of think that's what I want. At least that's what I'm going to do. So after all missions and interception has been resolved, and there's a whole sort of interception sequence, you do air combat, you do AA. Okay, so the non-active player conducts anti-aircraft fire against surviving air unit. I do need to do anti-aircraft fire. And I need to remember the rules on anti-aircraft fire. Here we are, 14.4. Units eligible are most combat units. Soviet units eligible are all division-sized non-cavalry units. That includes both of those. Each player fires once against each enemy mission in the hex. Apply the dice roll modifiers within the AA. That's another chart that I need to find somewhere. Where is the AA fire table? Here we are, the AA fire table. So let's do the top one first. against the Russian infantry against the Ju-88s. Modifiers. They're not out of supply, not out of command, no AA type unit, not an HQ. Okay, so we roll the die and basically resolve the effects. It's a 3, no effect. The Ju-88s get through. Next one, similar modifiers. It's a 4, no effect. The Ju-88s get through. All right, that's any aircraft fire. Now you'll do that. There are various modifiers. You have to make sure you've got eligible units. They were both eligible. The mission gets through. I think that's it. Air units remaining will affect ground combat with their close air support ratings, which is only 1, but they're still adding 1 to these combats. Yep. That's it. Not doing interdiction. So, folks, we are now up to the combat phase. I'm going to take a quick pause here, and I'll return later to resolve this.